I'm very familiar with the people from the tribal areas and the Pashtuns and the people from frontier province. I have known them to be in cities all over. I have known them when I was in Karachi, growing up in Karachi in the early few decades. They are the best human beings, but they will be the best friends and willing to give their life for you in friendship. But if you make them angry, they will be the fiercest fighters also. So you are now, instead of getting the strength of their friendship, you're really just simply making them angrier every day, where for one bad guy, you're killing 9 of their family members. And that's what is feeding the few, gangs of terrorists that are there. So I think there has to be a lot of change. A major step recently was taken when Secretary Clinton made a very vocal admission that, yes, United States, and I think this was a very dramatic moment for Pakistan, where one of the most senior officials of the U.S. government has the guts to just say, yes, we created the mess, and then we asked Pakistan to, clean it, and that's not fair. So I think the biggest first step has been taken. I think a lot of steps are now being taken in terms of making sure that going forward the economic assistance does reach the intended people in the various areas, the intended programs with transparency. And I think we all said the Pakistani American community is a very powerful resource to make sure that the relationship repair uses them and everything. Right now, I think we really haven't started that process yet. It needs to get started fairly quickly. We have a very narrow window of opportunity to turn the war on terror around, and I'm one of the biggest taxpayers for the last 42 years in America, and I feel that my money is being wasted. So I want to make sure that my money really helps, stabilize regions, which will then become economic regions for everybody in the world. There are lots of potential consumers out there in, Pakistan, India, China, and all that. And I think multinational companies and other companies in the United States will have a big benefit of having an economic turnaround in those areas.
Speaking of terrorism and speaking of controlling certain areas, and we're gaining control, Swat Valley, the border with Afghanistan, between Pakistan and Afghanistan, the president seems very strong in attacking al-Qaeda, not worrying as much about Taliban. Taliban, some would say more so than al-Qaeda, or equally so, are problems for Pakistan. Does this hurt Pakistan in the long run? Is this America not doing all that they can from a military perspective to help Pakistan in both the countries fight against terrorism?
I think there's two things that are necessary. I think temporarily, the presence of Americans on the ground is causing here's what is, whether it's reality or not, it's a perception. There is always a constant fear in the Pakistanis' minds that here comes the potential occupiers and invaders, and you don't want to be that. America has nothing to do with occupying or invading or anything. But at the same time, when you have an American face out there most of the time with guns and drones and other things and all that, you end up creating additional problem. But the same kind of action can be much more efficiently taken if the Pakistan military, which is more than capable of doing this and very familiar with it, is really given all the proper resources and support and the comfort level to carry this out. But like I said, a certain amount of money, and you're trying to stretch it to do economic work and education work and fix the police and get the food and get the roads and get the military and everything, it becomes almost useless, I was just reading, like I said, a couple of days ago that I think, $500, $600, $700 billion U.S. military budget is going through or getting approved or whatever, and you're talking about $1.5 billion economic assistance. I think it's really time for very serious thinking as to what will it take. And I don't think we really have to simply do these things in piecemeal and not get any results. So we are, like I said, the policy that the U.S. is taking is till now is really creating more problems than solving the problems.
On Sunday, you and I were privy to be invited to a luncheon where former President William Jefferson Clinton spoke. And you and I were also privy to be with a smaller group of people that got to speak with him privately. And I know that you had some questions that you didn't get posed. The Secret Service certainly whisked him out of that room fast. What would you have said, and I don't mean your whole presentation, but in short, what would you have said to former President Clinton?
I had a few things that I really wanted to mention to him. Just let him know that there's a growing difference between the rich and poor, and it's taking us to a disaster in that region. And the only way the poor people are able to fight back is by joining the armed rebels, terrorists, and extremists. I, as an engineer, a third generation engineer, I know all man-made problems have man-made solutions. And Pakistan, I think, is the only country where we can make a last stand successfully to stop this rising terrorism and extremism and reverse the tide. I think the present action is U.S. action is only successful in increasing the misery and hatred, and instead of winning the hearts and minds. So I'd much rather say that this $1.5 billion economic assistance, and I believe there's about $700 million military assistance, is a very good start. I think the democratic institutions, for the first time in the 60-year history of Pakistan, are taking root. I'm very convinced that is taking place. I can see that the military now wants to simply be on the side and not become part of the political cycle. I think helping the military and helping the civilian government really does a lot for Pakistan becoming a very good democratic nation that helps United States in that part of the world.